for sticking around. That was Hotel on Fire you were just watching. Make sure to go follow him, like his pages, check out his music, keep up with him. You got to keep up with artists. If you like an artist, you got to keep up with that artist. That's the whole culture. All right, so we're moving on to one of the most exciting parts. I've been really excited for this all night. This is a couple of the leaders of the We Rising movement here with us. And we just kind of wanted to sit down and get into what it is that's happening out here in the streets with the protests, with the BLM movement, with everything that you and we are working on. So the first thing I would like to ask is let's go ahead and introduce everybody. Give us your names and what you're about, and we'll start from there. What you got there? Cool. Yep.
My name is Jacob Rayford. Artistically, I'm known as Rocky Tirade, one of the many leaders of or organizers in the We Rising project. Eh,
My name is Jocelyn Geiger.
where do we-
Everybody knows me as Jazzy or Jazz, and I'm also one of the organizers within the We Rising project.
My name is Kyrie. I also go by the real Kyrie. That is my artist name. I'm a ghostwriter out here from Atlanta and one of the organizers with Re-Rising.
My name's Elisa, or everybody affectionately calls me E. I'm one of the organizers with Re-Rising Project, originally from Baltimore, and I'm really happy to be here.
I'm William, or Will, from Evanston, Illinois. One of the organizers of this great group of people. We're here to do the damn thing.
Cool. So let's start with what is the We Rising project? What's the purpose? What's the goal? What are the objectives? Let's talk a little bit about that. How did it start? Where are we moving forward to?
okay, so I mean, we've been going about a month strong. This really is like-minded individuals who met each other in a crowd. Jazz can elaborate more on that, but basically, we're people who had an idea about contributing ourselves to nonviolent demonstrations after seeing how chaotic things were have been up to that point. We had met up, and things just kind of grew from there.
Yeah, it was. I'll go ahead and touch on what Tirade said. It was actually really cool how we all met. I smile like a little kid every time I talk about it. But so I was going to the protests literally since day one when Reverend Jarrett led the first one. And then on maybe the third or fourth day of protests, I just kind of decided to take the mic from some random person and just start like chanting on my own. And then I was telling everybody, because I really wanted to see everything keep going. So I was just like, okay, you guys, and something that my mom's friend told me was, it's important to be passionate, just don't be stubborn. And I didn't want to see anybody else like get hurt. I didn't want to see anybody else, end up going to jail. So I was just like, let's make sure we're out here every single day. Like, let's do everything we possibly can to not, get hurt, get arrested, so we can keep this going, so we don't stop. And then the day after that day, I met 3 of our guys who are back home right now, Ed, Ethan, and Marcus. And we made our own little group chat. The next day, I met Tirade here, added him to the group. Then we brought in Jonah, who is just universally loved by everybody. And then on that same day is when I saw Will and Kyrie out there in the crowd, and I saw them up there with these guys that I had just formed this very random friendship that just kind of stuck. And so I was just really excited. And so that night, we're just like, all right, guys, we need a name. And we came up with so many different ridiculous names. So many different names. And we just decided on the We Rising project. I was just like, we need to make it something that sounds really cool. And I don't know. I'm biased, but yeah. And we stands for with everyone. So I wanted to make it a universal thing. Like, not only are we here right now since it's current events and it's so relevant just in the world is, fighting for Black lives and social injustices, systematic racism and, oppressions. But we want to stand with everybody. We want to be able to advocate for all the underdogs out there. So I love these guys.
Well, that's a really bringing that up. That's a great point. Of like, there's a motto out there that keeps coming up. If you've been to any of these events, you've heard it, and it's touch one, touch all. And I think that's the with everybody vibe. We are acting as one. You know, we're out here, we're individuals, but we have the collective idea. I love that we with everyone. I actually hadn't heard that yet, so that's really exciting.
Want to touch on it from its origins?
Oh, I mean, like she said, I was there on a Monday. Me and Will came out. We did our thing. Our origins was just that. Jaslyn explained it perfectly. We Rise in Art is a group of organizers, and we're fighting against systematic oppression and social injustices. We're gonna get this change. Like, we're gonna get it. So that's us. We're determined.
Great. Anyone else wanna? You guys good?
I want to give a quick shout out to Armani Jackson. She was actually before I like got involved with Jazzy, all these great people. We were out Sunday when they had like the 200 arrests that Sunday night, and we all had a great thing. We did a great thing. Saw a bunch of people out there, and it was moving to do that. And then, like how Jazzy said, she wanted to keep it going, and it kind of like whatever the universe did kind of just fell into our laps, and like from that it was I was able to do that Sunday, and then Monday come right back out, and we have this group of people like headlining this stuff. And this is what I went to school for this, so like this shit can I swear? This
Speak
shit
freely.
is like
Speak
so like
freely.
this shit is like dear to me, and like I'm all about equality. I'm all about whatever color you are, whatever it is, like love it. The only thing I'm against is hate. So it like to be able to say that we are rising, like this is some real shit that we're doing. And like Kyrie said, we're not stopping this. If we got to keep marching until next year, the year after that, we're gonna keep doing it. We're gonna keep putting our foot in the the police's asses and whatnot, making them feel like shit. So,
Yeah.
I just wanted to say, yeah, it is real for me personally. Like it is. This is real. This is like really deep, and this is really moving. And this is the only thing that I can like honestly see myself doing for like the rest of my life. Like if I don't get paid for it, oh well, I'll figure I'll trick myself off for a little bit of money or something. But like. This like our group of people is some real stuff, and I wouldn't want to change anybody, nobody.
I know that's right.
I was probably one of the latter members, if I can even say that, because it's like every day our family is like multiplying, right? But I just remember watching them and seeing their vibe and reading and seeing, different versions of stories. And me with my ex-military self, I had to go and do recon and find out for myself. And when I went to my first protest, I brought my whole family out. And I just remember having such a moment of release. Like I was literally sobbing as I was walking. Nobody talked to me. No one was chanting at that moment. We were actually, I think, having 8 minutes of silence. And it was just this moment where I just broke. And I think I just felt so safe in that environment. And I truly felt that family, without it being seen. I wasn't even a part of the organizers. I was just in that atmosphere. And it was so electric. And I remember the point of me going was because I was concerned that I wasn't seeing a lot of the faith community present out in the streets with them. And I had some conversations with others within, the faith community. And aside from Warren, who works really closely with Re-Rising, I wasn't really seeing anyone else come out. And I just thought it was really important, at least from the platform that I had, understanding that I support prayer, understanding that I support people being able to come collectively together regardless of what they believe in, that when there is a issue of hurt that spans religious beliefs, that we should be able as a family to come together and still say we support, not so much worried about our image or what those within our immediate faith organizations is going to think, because Christ was love. And he was in the streets with the people that were not necessarily Sunday morning ready. And I couldn't be okay with just being in a church on Sunday and praying in my prayer closet about what's happening, because there's a thing about prayer where you're supposed to be using the same conversation. You're supposed to be using the same language, so there can be those two or three that's joined together to bring about that change. And I was saying, how could I possibly be a part of that two or three if I don't even know exactly what they're feeling? I have to be out there with them. So that was my initial thought, with I have to connect with them. If it was nothing else, I was doing my prayer on the front line hashtag and calling people to come out, even if it was just to cover them in that atmosphere in prayer. And it turned into a whole lot more than that. So I'm really excited, and I would again encourage anyone that is just going off of what the news, the media, hearsay. I encourage you to have the tenacity to come out to see what these awesome group of young people is doing. They may not be doing it the way that, we would have done things 10 years ago or what have you, but they are doing the work. And it's awesome to come back after someone's built the bridge and say what they did wrong, but it's more effective to come and help them put the pieces together and do it correctly, and allow them to use that passion to do so.
Yeah.
Oh, well, I mean, so. Oh, no, please, after you.
Oh well. I'm glad you brought that. What you were just talking about is kind of why we're here, actually. Personally, when I started going out, I wasn't out there in the first weekend when things got really crazy, because we were actually doing this. We were doing the second version of our stream, and so we were setting up all this while the gas was blowing through from what was happening out there. It was pretty wild. So when we got out there, it was by the time you guys had already started, taking over it would have been around Monday or Tuesday. And what I saw was just such a powerful message, and it was clear and it was concise, and you guys were preaching, nonviolent, like not necessarily peaceful. This is activism, this is, social disturbance or whatever.
We gotta
Right,
we
but
gotta raise some
nonviolent.
hell. We gotta
Right.
raise some hell.
And that's what got me super motivated to start bringing out the speaker for you guys, get you amplified, because I
Thank you.
want.
And I heard we heard you too. We loved it.
Thank
We
you, by the
loved
way.
it. Then he brought the big one out.
Yeah.
It's on. It's on.
And the reason I felt so the reason I felt so needing to do that was because I loved what I was hearing. And for those of you guys who are just tuning in or haven't really been following the We Rising project, it's a very young movement. Obviously, it just formed throughout this last bout of activism that's been starting off in our country and around the world. But though it's so young, though it's such a new movement, the voices in it are so clearly focused. That's the word I wanted to say. And it's not. The reason we're here is to build a bridge, right, between what's happening in the street and what people are seeing on the internet. Like you were saying, you had to go out there to be a part of it and understand it. And I think the issue we're having is a lot of people don't know how to get involved by coming out on the streets, or they can't for whatever reason, especially with the COVID stuff going on, and people's health issues, that kind of stuff. And all they're getting is what they're seeing online, what they're seeing on the news, what their friends are saying, and it's a lot of very heightened, opinionated stuff. And so, but if you go out there, if you join us in these marches, you can hear a lot more intrinsically what we're doing. You're in it. But if you can't come out there and be with us, here we are. We're here now. We're in your living room, and now we get to talk about it. So as a movement moving forward, I know you wanted to say something. What were you going to?
In no way, shape, or form at the Trump rally did our organization assault any police officers or anything like that.
Yeah.
All of us were
care.
on the front
Yeah,
lines that day.
Yeah.
I don't care what anybody says, what anybody thinks, or anybody saw. All right, actually, I'm not going to say that. What they saw the dude punch him, but that was because he was retaliating for the officer attacking us already. So I don't care what the police put out. I seen all the video. I read all the articles. Yeah. You pushed the shield, and then he backed up, and even when he pushed back off of him, we were already on the sidewalk. And that was another thing, is that as much as they want to say, we were already on the sidewalk, and the reason I know that is because I was able to walk on the little part of the street between the police officers and the sidewalk, and everybody here actually was on the front line. Besides Ty, Ty got there right after that.
Right after.
And then everybody here was on the front line, linked up, and me and Kyrie were the ones walking back and forth with our brother Poet.
I mean, go ahead.
Specifically showing, I know I specifically because so regardless of my background, I could see where they were going. I was seeing how they were lining up. So I made it a point to specifically make footage showing the sidewalk versus the asphalt and showing pretty much 98% of the people, with the exception being the organizers that were rallying everybody back, telling them very vocally to follow directions, pleading with the police that, we've complied, can you now move back, why do you have on riot gear? So we have all of that on footage, and unfortunately, because we may be the Davids in this situation, Goliath decided to use its power to present this picture and use our footage as a means to justify why one of our family members was assaulted, and that's egregious.
Yeah, and even when you look at the footage, they're showing the footage of them actually assaulting people and committing atrocious acts. But then the narrative subconsciously points you in the direction of the agenda that they're trying to push. But this is no different than what they were doing on May 27th and 28th. When I said it was a month ago, I meant like a month ago from when it was really active, and there was a lot of hostility on behalf of the Phoenix Police Department. They were gassing minors. They were baiting people out and then using tear gas to funnel them into a specific area across the street from the Phoenix Police Department, so people would scatter around and potentially hurt themselves and things of that nature. And they will use any method that they can to spin the narrative away from the truth. But as long as people like y'all are watching and disseminating the real information and utilizing your social platforms, you may not necessarily have to be out here with all of us today. You are a part of the machine, and y'all salute us for doing this, but really we salute y'all, because y'all have our backs. Y'all are the real voices of this campaign, and we're just the physical manifestation of what y'all are doing behind the lines.
And please don't stop, because as we say every time we're out there and everything that we're doing, we're keeping this non-violent. We're going to disturb the peace. But like I tell them, it's as long as we don't do nothing wrong, we just going to make the police department look even more stupid each day. And the reason that they're out here in riot gear like they were yesterday, and the reason that they were out, they basically just show up in riot gear now, is because they can't say anything about us. We can't, you can't say we're looters. You can't say we're rioters. We do our thing every day. And at the end of the day, as long as y'all keep pushing our agenda, not even our agenda, the right agenda, actually, I should say, of equality matters, and we're fighting this systemic racism and police brutality, police murderers. That's what we just want, and what we need, and we're just gonna keep fighting every day for it.
So, for the sake of time, obviously every single day the PD paints the perfect picture as to why we have to come back the next day. The egregious acts every day we're out there, they do that. But to get into I wanted to ask, if we had to bullet point out maybe the top 3 goals of the We Rising project right now, what are the things we're trying to accomplish right now? What's the main staff head of, I'm not sure exactly what your guys' plans are or where you're at with that, so could we talk a little bit about that?
I guess 3 bullet points. Well, firstly, we want to take the money that's been placed into the Phoenix Police Department unjustly and disseminate that back into the community. Through the use of our dollars, they're able to, commit atrocious acts. They're able to use militarized tactics and, things befitting of an actual armed force. So, long TLDR, defund the police.
Defund the police. I think one of our second biggest points is for officers that are known repeat offenders, that there has to be some level of accountability where they are now having to serve in the communities that they are offending against. I think that sometimes it's because they're just not connected. It's not real to them. It's the matrix. So when you start having to police within communities, or not just police, but to serve within communities that you're policing in, there's a different connection that's established, and it brings a more empathetic approach to the people that you're policing. And we understand that it is a known fact that if you score too highly on the empathy test when you're being vetted to come into the police department, you are turned away, and that needs to be counteracted.
You want to say the last one? I think a big third one for us is straight to the point is demilitarize the police. Get rid of their rubber bullets. Get rid of their tear gas. It's a war crime. There's no reason why they should be using tear gas on civilians on the homeland. That makes no sense to me, especially when you know you have kids out there. Yesterday when we were out there in Tempe for our chalk walk, they seen we had kids out there, and the first thing they did was pull up with guns, and it just didn't make any sense. You have 4-month-old out there. You have a 1-year-old, 2-year-old. You like all ages. Why would you do that for a chalk walk on a nice Saturday night? So demilitarize the police. Take all of that from them. They don't need it. They don't need it. I know we have one other one.
Hell yeah. Any
And I
others?
mean, along with that, you know, defunding the police, pour those budgets, pour that, revenue back into our, community, schools, hospitals. Teachers need to be paid more. Like there's so many neighborhoods, that there are little kids right now growing up in as their home, and they don't even have streetlights. These extra, $25 million, that doesn't need to go to them. There's enough people, I think, in our communities that are suffering. And I think it's really important for our, justice system, our government to recognize that they're really taking away from that. They're taking away from people who need those funds.
And for those of you at home, just so you know, when we say we want that money back from the police department, it's not like a greedy thing. We personally don't want that money. We want that money in community programs such as crisis response teams, people who know how to de-escalate a situation, mental health response teams, who know how to actually handle people who are dealing with specific forms of life that you have to go through the schooling to understand things about, that these police officers aren't going through. They're not even going through schooling for the law. They're definitely not going through schooling to talk about mental health issues, right? So this isn't a greedy thing. We don't want this money. We want this money for the betterment of the community through actual programs that can actually change things.
It would only make more sense because now more spending would happen. You could now build the community up even more. Also, quarterly mental health checks. They need that. Quarterly.
I think another thing we kind of talked about, but this is like a personal thing that I would love to see happen eventually across the nation, is like civilian review boards for police shootings, for police brutality. With subpoena power. It's a thing that I've kind of always thought about, is that there shouldn't be it should be full transparency between civilians getting information about police in their streets that are committing crimes or have committed crimes, whether or not they've been convicted. You are a police officer. You go to school for how long, or you go to training for a couple months, yeah, but if you want to do your job right, you should be tried right when you do your job wrong. So that's something that I would love to see. I know we kind of talked about that as a group, but that's like a personal thing that I would love to see. It would, I think, tremendously help community and police relations.
And along with that, something I feel very strongly about. Okay. One thing I'll mention, another personal kind of goal for me that I feel very strongly about, is the fact that Joe Arpaio is running for sheriff again. And it is our duty to make sure this monster does not
Criminal.
get that
He's a
title.
criminal.
Yeah, he's a criminal.
He is a walking human rights violation.
Yes.
He thinks that I'm pretty sure he thinks that he didn't technically by accepting the pardon, he admits guilt, and I'm
Yep.
pretty sure he still believes that he is not guilty of the crimes he committed.
He laughed
Whether-
about suffocating women. He laughed about children dying. He laughed about, all the bombings that are going on in other countries and the photos of little kids. Like he's, oh my gosh,
So
very passionately.
Yeah.
about
yeah, and what I'd like to add to that again, and I don't know why I feel so. I know why I feel so important to keep bringing it here, but for our faith community, from my heart directly to you, I understand a lot of people that I know personally. They choose to keep their mind on things that are good, and I get that. But the word also says that the people perish because of lack of knowledge. So if you do not give yourself at least the opportunity to be educated, and understand at least what's going on within your immediate community, your immediate district, your immediate states, you are doing the same people that you are shepherding a disjustice, because you have a platform to educate. So when there's things like these political arenas, and I understand the difference of separation of church and state, but you have been given a platform to be able to educate. And if that just means at least keep yourself educated so that a parishioner can come to you and feel like that they can have that discussion with you because they look to you for leadership, then that's great too. I'm not saying you need to stand at your pulpit and preach politics. That's absolutely, don't take that for what I'm saying. But for those that is their calling, that is their heart pool, that is their burden, to be amongst those that are handling that part of the steps of life, right? You have to be able to shepherd them too. And what you do if you're not allowing yourself to have that education is you are kind of tossing those sheep aside, and you allow them to be engulfed in things that much certainly, it's a lot of stuff going on. It's a lot of emotional things going on. It's a lot of things going on to the point where if you don't have some sort of grounding, some place to go to digress, to release, to be counseled, it can turn into rage and anger. And we understand in the faith community that there is righteous anger, right? And there's a way that you channel it. But we cannot ask people to be in that space and they're not given the tools to do so.
Wow, thank you. That was super powerful. Well, we're way over time. No, don't be sorry. This is probably the most important conversation we've had for this whole stream. So, well, it is the most important conversation we've had in any of these streams so far. Before we let you guys go, I do just want to give the people at home the opportunity to find you online, get involved if they would like to. I know we have a huge volunteer effort going on, so if you want to talk just a little bit about that.
You can find the whole gang at the We Rising Project on Instagram. Same on Twitter. We Rising on Twitter. We Rising Project on Twitter. Corrected.
Another way to find us as well is if you use hashtag WeRisingPHX. Not only will we pop up as an organization, but all of our like-minded demonstrators and people who are on the front lines with us who've been utilizing those that hashtag will pop up as well.
Yeah.
You can find your next friend out here. You know, we talk about buddy systems. We don't mean just going to your car. We mean people who are out here experiencing the same experiences that you are. And you know, we're here together. We all we got. You know, I'm a hip hop artist, and hip hop is about the community, and this is about the community. So this is about as hip hop as it gets. So you can find us on hashtag We Rising Project and We Rising Project. Oh, I'm sorry, Re-Rising PHX. Thank you.
Also, if you want to get more involved and specifically to volunteer or get connected to one of our research teams, please email werisingproject@gmail.com. Again, that's werisingproject@gmail.com. And we also have our website that you can submit an inquiry form to, werisingproject.org.
We love seeing you guys out there. I want to thank you guys for having us. Just saying, these protests, I gained 17 new friends in less than 2 weeks. So
New family
it's worth
members.
it.
And okay, so I looked at the time wrong. We actually have a half an hour left.
Oh,
Wow.
So
damn.
yeah,
Okay.
I thought we were out of
Look
time.
at that. Oh, that's
We
beautiful.
So
in the
anything
game.
you guys want to dive into? I mean, we got.
Ask a question. We'll go ahead.
Let's
Yeah.
let's hear it. Let's hear it.
So
Check.
sorry.
Cool.
So when we talk about, I'm so glad we have more time.
Yes, me
Because
too.
it's very important. So when we talk about what you can do if you're at home and you're like, I'm not ready to be out yet, we understand you. And you have to do self-care. We talk about self-care all the time, right? So self-care is important. That family time is important. That connection, that time for you to cleanse. We do self-care Sundays personally for us, but we encourage every family member to take that time at no explanation. I need time to take that time. But what you can continue to do is help push the truthful narratives of what's going on, to stay connected. So a really current example of that, on yesterday, if you follow us already, you can see what happened to a lot of our family members. And what may not be as clear is that we had medics, support staff that were just walking peacefully back to their vehicles after we were asked to disperse, and we were following those instructions. And the Tempe police literally waited until everyone was dispersing, and as you can see in footage, attacked them. It was at least 20 officers. I know myself and a few other organizers were actually kind of still circling the area to make sure no one was straggling, no one was walking alone, because those are things we stress. And we literally, as we're passing through the back way of where they are, because they blocked off the street on both sides, they cornered in these support staff of We Rising, who were literally walking back to their car and ambushed them and sprayed them profusely, at least 4 people, and arrested at least 1. This was after everything was done and everyone is gone. So they are hunting. And I use that word intentionally. They are hunting those who are using their voice to exercise their First Amendment right, who are offering resources. They've constantly attacked our water supply, because we know we're in triple digit weather, right? And it would not be it wouldn't be feasible for us to it would be very careless and malicious not to provide people with sustenance and water and things like that when they're out there. And they've constantly broken us apart from our resources, to the extent of ganging up on them after giving them tickets on top of tickets and citations for no reason. So these are the sorts of things that, even if it's just communicating that to your friends, your immediate circle on your social media platform, it's going to get way more stretch in your personal networks than coming from We Rising Project directly. So that in itself is amazing that you can do from home.
So we actually, someone from the Tones of Chains crew wants to jump in here and ask you guys some questions. So we're gonna grab her
please.
and bring her in. You said Rania, right? So this is Rania from Tones for Change, and I'm gonna give her my seat here.
Hi.
Here you go. Jump on in.
Bring it in.
Hi guys, I'm excited to meet you guys. But
Um.
yeah, I'm Joy Rania from Tones for Change, and I know that like all of us have been kind of meaning to connect and chat a bit. You know, on our side, we're doing kind of just focusing on Black art and creating opportunity for Black artists in the community, and you know, kind of want to see like what avenues of change you're really passionate about outside of. Because I think, like, you know, primarily we need to focus on the fundamental, like, governmental and law enforcement. But then, like, you know, at Tones, we talk a lot about that continued change and progress in the community, like moving forward and how we keep that change kind of going. So would love to kind of hear about the different avenues of culture and community that you'd love to see more funding and growth and opportunity. Yeah.
More youth centers. Definitely more youth centers. We need to give our kids outlets and a place to, again, digress. They're forced with so much information at young ages to be in school all day learning things, and they have what, maybe an hour to have recess. They need a place to go to where they can learn some more or play some more, learn friends, learn more people within their community. We need more youth centers. Those are needed. Social work
Yeah.
budgets. We need to support our social workers a lot more. They're needed. We need this to build our community so we can make our community stronger.
I would personally say, all our brothers and sisters that are, unsheltered right now, to place attention on that, especially in Phoenix, Arizona. It's really hard for people to escape the oppressive heat. See death by heat exhaustion spike up exponentially at certain times of the year. And, there's no excuse why we can have some of the cleanest freeways. But as soon as you step off those freeways, you see individuals who could have used that aid from our government. And it goes back again to demilitarizing or in defunding the police. We can place and reallocate that money towards something that's more community forward. So I would also say, or we would also say, taking care of the unsheltered community.
I want to piggyback off that because Phoenix Police just really made everybody in their encampments move out of the way, and even the CDC reported not to do that. They reported to leave the homeless in their encampments because if they were to move them, it could possibly do more and spread the virus. And Phoenix PD went ahead. I think it was like did it anyway. I think it was like 2 days ago, and they ruined it. And these are their only quote unquote homes that they have, and they just treat people like that. And then someone quoted, I think one of the homeless women quoted in the report. She said, when we try to go down there and help them, the police come around and find them and just beat on them anyway, just like they do in Tempe. So if they do that to almost, I don't want to say regular civilians, but if they do that to people who have a different lifestyle of, whatever, oh yeah, it's unfair. That's why we got to get rid of it. We got to get rid of it.
I think also is having more programs for people to express hurt and to be able to cleanse. So we are not claiming to be a church or anything of that sort, but it is important in these vulnerable communities and in times like these that while we are addressing the front lines, like you spoke of with the legislation and things of that sort, that we also allow those that are processing all of this. I think I spoke about this at a BLM Phoenix Metro event, especially women, because we carry differently, and not discrediting the guys, but women understand we're meant to birth, we're meant to carry, we're meant to nurture. So we kind of pull that in differently. And we want to make sure that there are avenues to channel that in a positive manner. You don't want to have people coming out to these events like yesterday. It was meant for children and to be creative and to give out, like you guys are doing such an amazing job here to come in and release some of that energy and make something beautiful out of something that's so ugly and create memories for your children. And that happened, right? Same with the Trump rally, 8-year-old gas ridiculously for no reason. So as a woman, specifically, because I'm a woman, so I can speak to that at least, and as a mother, I know the importance of addressing what's going on with me personally. And if I don't do that in a productive manner, that can spill over into the energy of my children and my household. And in understanding that you have to be intentional in how you interact with them, right? So I think it's very important to have programs, to have events specifically focused with healing and cleansing.
That's nice.
Well, that's where like we can partner up, because that's our main focus is primarily creating a platform for Black voices and artists to come and share their stories and their pain. Our first event was so impactful. We had people attend who I can personally say that, I already anticipated because I had like talked with and planned with these artists and was managing the floor, and Sunny, who's in there, took the stage and I just started sobbing because the frequency that comes with real human storytelling is a completely different experience. And I had friends who attended who were like, you can read about it, watch documentaries, think you understand, but you don't really until you like feel it on that type of a frequency in the flesh. And so yeah, to like partner up with and like figure out all of the different kind of, because I always think about everybody's necessary in the community, right? So it's like the pacifist artist is just as important as the person willing to be on the front lines, yes. willing to riot. Like everybody's hating on rioters and like violent protesters, but it's like all of those layers are completely necessary. They're all a functional part of progress. Exactly. And all of it's expressed in a different way, and quite frankly those like singing hippies of us may not be able to have as much of an impact. We may not be able to like push a structure down. We can create maybe the stage for it, but all of those are fundamental parts of that like change and growth. And so what I would love to know, like, how do you see your partnerships, and what kind of other elements to this, like, say we're all building a house, and you guys have, I would say you guys are the fundamental kind of foundation, right? Because it's like without this like really necessary frontline work, I don't think that the house could be built. And so, but then like what are the other tiers on top, and what events would you guys like to see come to fruition to create these kind of experiences and continue the work?
Look, she's speaking out about this book.
She's scared. She's scared.
She's gonna look. She does not play. She can't even.
All superheroes have their.
Yeah. She can't even focus right now. That is. Look. Look. Go ahead. There you go. She
Listen,
is.
y'all, he better not fly at me.
Oh my gosh! Sweep it out. Look. She's. That's
Gee, you
that.
be out
That's
in the
her.
streets. Come on now.
That's her. Look, she'll
Be out in the
She'll
streets
stand up.
and you scared
She'll
of
stand up to
looks.
cops. She'll stand up to cops. But look, a bug come around. A bug come around. That's funny.
I thought it was a branch, and then I looked down, and I'm like, oh no, it crawls.
So I know to top on, like, to answer your question, really, Jazz really brought this to my attention not too long ago. She really wants to do big community events, just events to bring the community out, to bring everybody out, so we can all learn each other again. So it's just well needed. July 3rd? Yeah, July 3rd. We are doing our first big one. So I'm gonna let you touch on it, being that you brought it up. You brought it to my attention. So.
You do it.
I just, when it comes to, community events, I mean, you already heard me say, talking about defending the police and how we would need to pour back into our community. It's just so important for me to see, people of all different backgrounds and cultures, races, if you will, just really come together. And it's really important for me to, being a Black woman, pouring into the Black community. And that's something that, I've been thinking about since day one with this. Literally since day one, I know that, protesting is hard. It's tiring. We're always exhausted. It's so worth it. But we're also aware that, things can fizzle out sometimes. And people are a lot of the time wondering what's next, what's after this. And I think it's really important to keep us all together. We've gotten to know so many, all of, our family members, as we like to call them, our supporters, but they're really family for us. And I just really feel like it's important to keep them by our side, stick with them. We say touch one, touch all, and we're all family. So making sure that we can decompress in our own ways together, not just being angry out there on the streets, which isn't a terrible thing at all. That's what we're doing. That's how we create change. Is continuing to be passionate and using your voice, but really coming together, just building friendships with each other, getting to know each other on a very personal level. So I want games, I want face painting, I want food trucks, I want just everybody to have just the best time. And in regards to, we know what the next day is after that it's July 4th, and something that's really important to all of us is reclaiming Juneteenth. Because, on June 19th, slaves, they found out they were freed, but they were free for 2 years already, and they just didn't know about it. If we're all going to be in America when that happens, that is the true Independence Day. 4th of July is, it's white American Independence Day. So, June 19th, definitely, we press that every year. That's Happy Juneteenth, just like we say Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays, all of that. But yeah, I'm excited for July 3rd, and I hope I get to see all you guys out there too.
I think to touch on what Jazz was saying with the community events, it just kind of goes hand in my eyes. It kind of just goes hand in hand with defunding the police. Like, if we're able to do that, we're able to get our demands met. We're able to get other things met that we haven't even thought of yet. Because I have some ideas that I haven't even told these guys yet, and it's just things that are boggling in my mind. But I feel like once we're able to at least get that, first and foremost, actually, I've been wanting to say we still need all this information for Deion Johnson's.
Yes.
So I want to make that clear. Phoenix Police, Tempe Police, all y'all. We want all that information. Daniel Shaver, Muhammad Abdul. But to piggyback back on what Jazz was saying is that, like, with the community events, if we're able to really get the community to stand up to our local governments and the police to say we need this money and funnel it back into our communities, these events that we want to do, that we want a partnership with, and not only on our side, we also want to do it with the cities, with cities in general, and have them back us, which I think would be lovely. But if we're able to get that funding back and able to just have it as a regular thing, I don't think anybody here can say that it would be a potentially bad thing. And at the end of the day, if you're putting out community events that help people feel more loved, then I don't care what you believe in or anything like that. There's not going to be more people out there that are going to be hurting people, whether you're a cop or not, or just in general. But specifically for cops, I do feel like if you're children, or if, like how we were saying earlier, if you're in a community that you patrol, and then your kids are in there on a weekend or something like that, and you see how we actually live, and you don't think we're freak fucking monkeys and shit like that. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. But, like, thinking like we're like animals and stuff, then you'll actually see. And that's actually what I believe, and that's what I hope. So I think if, like, what you're saying is us being the foundation, it's going to take time, but to build the pillars, to build the roof, to build each bedroom, to build the damn basement, it's all just going to be honest, it's just going to be the community relations, and just in general, just community, whether they back us or whether we back them, it's going to get done. We're going to do it. Yeah, it's up to us, and we're going to keep doing it. So
I was going to say, to also directly answer your question, what types of events, we want to make sure that when we say we rising, we are not taken away from our family members that are lost to police violence. But I know to me, as well as all of us, it's equally as important to bring the names of those that have experienced injustice, that are still alive. Okay, so I know one of our supporters, Alex, her fiance's name is Ramon. Please forgive me, I don't want to misquote the last name, but She reached out to us very open-heartedly, expressing the story of her fiance who was brutally assaulted by the police and then ultimately charged. So his story is the actual aftermath of what would have happened probably to our family member at the Trump rally, if the family had not acted so quickly to pull out from that situation. And literally because of things in the past, that mistakes that he may have made once, it was literally once, they were able to use that against him to bring severity, based off a narrative that was spun that wasn't truth. And so when we are screaming the names of those that we have lost, we never want those who are still breathing to feel disconnected and invalidated and their stories not shared. So that is something that we are actively looking into doing, building that connection with those that are fighting behind bars to bring their stories to light as well and to get justice for them as well.
Or the ones we didn't mention. People that we may have forgotten that we didn't mention.
Yes,
Sorry about
absolutely. Yes.
Thank you guys for sharing. I think something that's really important to me, like personally, outside of Tones for Change, is black and colored representation in leadership across the board. Because if white power is creating, whether it be a corporate environment, whether it be a political environment, even like social structures and organizations, even like, you know, nonprofits. Like when you don't have any representation, diverse representation and power making the decisions, you're continuing the same cycles. If it, you know, sure, yeah, we have black cops, but ultimately, like, who's up top at the hierarchy?
It's
So
still
it's like,
blue.
exactly.
It's still blue.
Even if you, even if you are a black cop, it's not even about your color skin once you walk in through those doors.
They know what it is when they
It's
put the
all
badge
about
on.
it's all about however they brainwash you, however they do it. It's all about them changing who you are and how you think about a certain person or whatever that specific area they want of people that they want to subjugate.
Because, like, the origin of that leadership is born of
Slavery.
Slave patrol.
Catch the slaves.
I don't
Yeah.
care.
They still doing it.
I say this to the police. I said this the other day. They automatically shame their badge when they put it on, and not only by certain things that they're doing, but just in general by putting it on. I'm sorry to
The
say.
origin of the oath.
Yeah, I don't. And this may be a little bit controversial, but blue lives aren't real. I wear this skin 24 hours a day. You either have that blue, gray, brown, whatever on for 8 to 12 hours. So like I have police in my family. I have high political people in my family down south. So like I am like my family's from down south. So that shit doesn't bode well with me. So at the end of the day, like you know what you're doing wrong in certain aspects. You know what you should be doing right. And I personally don't only subjugate to the police. It's also about the way that you're able to continuously do the things wrong and then still either switch jobs to a different county, not get jailed or something like that. The immunity. So it's all about, and when we're talking about defunding the police, we're talking about not only political reform, but eventually, to a certain extent, an abolishment in a way of if we can defund the militarization of the police, are we not abolishing the militarization aspect of the police? So I feel like that's essentially kind of how we want into certain aspects of certain things. But the only way we're gonna do that is if the people and us keep fighting. So
I think it's important, like somebody in my personal life had brought this up, but this is like a sore subject for a lot of people where they're like, well, you can't just like tear down the whole police force and like take away all their money and stuff. But it's like, why not? Right? And I talk about about this too in terms of like our political structure, but it's like if America is funded on like revolutionary independence and then like birthing a political system that was completely unique, then we can do it again. Like we can tear everything down and rewrite it. So it's like how do we like walk around with all this nationalism about a country that was created of this like, you know, unique system that we came up with that we were like, oh, this works for us right now. Well, now we live in a different time and now we have more awareness, we have more knowledge, more diversity. So yeah, tear down the system and rewrite it.
Yeah.
Politically, structure, like the structure of our social system. Why do we have a balance of power in our politics? Is dead. Hello. Why do we have a balance of power, like, you know, checks and balances in our politics, but not in our social structures? Like, why is there no control in that regard, and why is there not true diversity in leadership and where those powerful roles actually are? So, of course, we're going to continue to repeat the same.
I think a large aspect of it is, and this is not at all We Rising, this is my personal thing, is that, like, you can't, as what you're saying, how we can't restart it again. The reason I believe we can't restart it is because America doesn't want to believe it's a hypocrisy to a certain extent. You can say all you want about the flag and all this shit and everything you want about equality and everything like that, but every day we walk out, people of color walk out, black and brown people of color walk out every day and are subjugated to a different life than white people. And not to say that if you don't want to fight for it, I can't necessarily say that if you don't want to fight for it that you're a part of the problem, because that's just rude. Sometimes you got to be rude though, but you are.
You are part of the problem.
Yeah, and I'm sorry. Yeah, I'm sorry to say. I'm sorry. I'm trying to be nice.
We're saying it with love.
But like,
saying it with love.
Yeah, if you're on the wrong side.
I don't want, because I want my brother to go first. But just to go off of what he said, again, because I'm a woman, that's the standpoint I'm going to come from. We all know of someone or a very vivid story of someone who was allowed to be taken advantage of, raped, molested, murdered because they were afraid to not be nice, right? So sometimes rudeness is required.
Yeah.
Rudeness is required.
Yes, agreed.
And then I think the other part of what I'd like to say in response to what you're saying about those that are top down. So my background, I'm a medically retired veteran.